Hello, my friends. Thank you for joining me. Let's do a bit of comfortable standing to begin. Letting everything fall open. And as usual, if you are just finding us on the internet for your first time, I'm glad that you're here. Please do check down below for the appropriate links to an introduction to the set, and then you can start at the very beginning of this 100-day series. That way you can get the full benefit of the practice. Softening and relaxing. As you let go, and as you soften your neck so that your head is able to release upward, decompressing and opening. And as you soften open through the shoulders, falling outward toward the fingertips, the chest softens open, the upper back opens, so that the chest cavity space is released. The belly and the lower back, so we're no longer compressing and restricting and holding things. Because of that, the abdominal cavity is allowed to soften open, to make space on the inside. Front and back, the sides open as you breathe. Notice that spaciousness inside. As you release the back and the hips are able to settle down and softening open, this pelvic floor and the space inside here suddenly has room. We stop standing in a closed and restricted and locked way, and pretty soon all of this space inside begins to open. And it can take more practice, of course, but even inside the legs, right? You'll notice my musculature is soft. All the weight is now in this leg, but it's still soft because there's a way to be in the body that isn't gripping and closing all the time. And so as I stand on my legs, there's a possibility of moving through the center of the legs, the center of the knee, through the bottom of the feet, interacting with the ground. Similarly, through the arms. If I'm not restricting all of the time through my arms, movement has this potential to move through the arm instead of just with the arms. And of course, that sounds strange until you've experienced it. But in the very least, even if you think of it in terms of digestion, breath, circulation of the blood, the body fluids, these are things that move through, not just around or with. And so as you stand here and you make that space inside, making room for this movement through, in Chinese, tong tou, a kind of releasing through and out into the tissues. Can you purposefully, intentionally, make more room as you stand? Through letting go, not through using force. Force only ever constricts and gets in the way. Just another couple of minutes, letting go. And so, of course, for today, what we've been doing is we've been exploring various specific parts of the body. We've been leading with the feet, with the hands, with the head. We've been exploring what it's like to open the front of the body, what it's like to release and open along the back. And we want to explore now a slightly more difficult layer, which is that inside quality. And it can actually be broken down pretty directly into several different layers, but we're just going to say the inside today. And in the way that if you were to stand in a certain way, obstructing and constricting your abdomen and your back, you might experience, if I hold my chest, that I can't breathe anymore, as though someone's sitting on your chest. Or if you're wearing a very tight girdle, you can't breathe. There's a lack of capacity for something to move through into the center. And we want to also find that if I was to constrict my arm, maybe put something very tight, like a tourniquet around my arm here, then you would start to experience that the circulation isn't quite reaching anymore. It starts to hurt and feel constrained. We've all had these kinds of experiences. If I was to eat a heavy lunch and then sit like this, or if you had a family member, like a younger sibling, come and sit on your belly after you've had a heavy lunch or something, maybe a very heavy cat, you would experience how there's no longer any room for digestion to happen. It starts to get in the way. Constipation is like that. Things stop moving because there's something in the way. And if you can imagine those feelings of constraint, obstruction, blockage, and then imagine how you can move to release that. Not by trying to force something, but by releasing those constraints, those restrictions. How would that feel? How would you explore that? And of course, it's a difficult thing to talk about until it's obvious to you, and actually surprisingly easier to explore in person using martial arts techniques and things, because people become very stable and grounded and strong and expressive when there's space inside. But over the camera, of course, that's harder to explore while I'm alone. So instead, we're just going to use this experience that you've had in the past, whatever that experience is like for you. I don't want you to start imagining claustrophobic feelings, but do know that when things are closing in from the outside, it can actually restrict what's going on the inside. And so what we want to do is shape our bodies such that there's a possibility for better circulation. And it may just be your breath that you relate to. And you know that, oh yeah, if I stand like this, it actually becomes hard to breathe. Or some other version of that. Or maybe you know that, yeah, my hands tend to lose circulation very easily, and I've noticed that if I do this, my hands fall asleep. Some version of this. But if I soften open, suddenly my hands get warmer. And so for you, if that's a condition you've experienced, you already know how to move in such a way that it doesn't restrict and obstruct blood flow. And maybe you can start to explore ways to move that actually enhance that flow, or the breath, or digestion, whatever it is that you know about your body. Circulation, water circulation for people whose feet and ankles tend to swell. Perhaps you've noticed that if you stand with your knees locked and your hips locked and you're just kind of here with foot tension for a while, your legs start to swell. But maybe if you start to move and you're free and there's a little bit of pumping and circulation through your feet, correct alignment of your legs, that there's less of that fluid accumulation that happens in your legs. And so this, again, is a bit difficult for people when they're brand new exploring it. But start to think about how to create space on the inside of the body so that flow can move tong-to through and out in a healthy and easily dynamic way. And again, we'll talk about this as we go, but I want you to have a sense of what we're trying to describe. And all of the movements in Snake and Turtle have a sense of creating spaciousness, and so we'll explore that a bit. And just do your best. And again, if this feels strange, feel free to watch this lesson several different times until it starts to feel like it makes sense. And definitely include your thoughts, comments, questions down below in the comment section, both for myself, but also people who come after, because we all help each other that way. Closing. Settling. So with closing, we create space, we sink, pivot around the little finger, chest lets go, but without collapsing. The solar plexus, the belly softens, the lower back releases so that there's room, and everything sinks down through the center and outside and settles like a stone dropped into a clear pond, a coin that you toss into a well, and it sinks down, settling. It's always the space that we create which makes all of the difference. Let's make some circles here. And as your awareness moves around with your hands through this space, see if you can soften the inside of your abdomen. Release the tension that collects on the inside. You might even feel as though you're a kind of a water balloon. You're filled with liquid, and you've been holding in all of that liquid, like constraining it. And so just for today, you let all of that pressure release outward toward the surface. Letting go, not holding on. Both directions. Awareness sinking inside as best you can. Another reason to create empty space, to make room in the center, is so that your mind more easily settles into this dantian space between the navel and the spine, cultivating something different. Let's do a little left and right yin and yang practice as usual. Emptying and emptying, letting go, soft. And again, if I was to do this and lock my knee and lock my hip and sort of push my arm down, I'd actually be getting in the way of this movement through to the ground. Through to the ground. You can use, if it's helpful, that visualization of water, liquid gold, washing through your body, through the tissues, through the center of your arm, out and down. One side becoming light, one side becoming heavy. Emptying through to the ground. I use language like emptying very purposefully because it creates a sense of the space that we're making in the middle. We're not just releasing the joint, but all the space leading all the way through to the fingertips and down, through the torso, through the legs, into the earth. Eventually, by the way, for the more advanced people, we're not moving chi through anymore, but there's more of an experience of shifting under your feet in the ground because you never pick up the weight. You're constantly releasing. But that comes later for most people. Just in case you're more advanced, I want to let you know that that is part of this practice as well. Feels good. Crown of the head continue to release up because your neck is empty of tension. Now, let's soften the sides of the neck, lengthening as usual. And again, pointing out the wrong way would be to fold here. It would actually create constriction through here. There's no more movement able to travel through my neck comfortably. I'm restricting everything by folding instead of by lengthening, releasing, softening and opening the tissues without strain or tension. And then let's warm up the lower back a little bit. Helping to encourage the ability to release this often very tight space. Feels good. And now, let's go ahead and move into snake, softening its sides, swaying side to side like a wave. That wave isn't just moving around the body. Eventually it moves through the body. It propagates through the soft tissue, through the liquid parts of the body. Opening, releasing. We just have to get out of the way. Notice that it's possible to go too far and it actually closes off the joints, closes the movement and the possibility of movement through. Feeling the inside. Tapering off and closing. There's no rush. And by the way, in the comment section, I have heard from some people that they have difficulty remembering the sequence for this practice. And so for some of you, I've already created a simple memory tool, a mnemonic, that you'll find on my channel, association to help you remember which movement comes after which movement. If you're having difficulty with memory and concentration in general, and you're looking for a way to strengthen, enhance, and to revive some of those connections that may be getting dull, there is a wonderful teacher here on YouTube that you can find. If you simply search for the magnetic memory method, 3 M's, Dr. Anthony, he is a wonderful instructor, and he has a whole host of exercises and ways to strengthen different aspects of your mind, including your memory. And it might be a really helpful thing for you to do as an adjunct to this practice, as a way to strengthen your mind while you are also working on quieting and softening your mind. Always helpful to have different kinds of instruction, different kinds of practice, like a cross-training method. Let's soften the hips. Releasing, and for today, emphasizing the inside. Try going too far, kind of running into your movement. And notice, of course, one, that it doesn't help as much to soften the tissues here, or to release the joints. But for today, it also actually restricts the ability for movement through on the inside, both directions. Especially when you're having difficulty feeling your insides. And this can be a very helpful way to stimulate awareness of this internal restriction by going too far. But don't do it wrong too many times in a row. We still want to practice. Full circles. Going too far, if you'd like, feeling how it restricts movement through, the connection to the ground, the softening of your abdomen and the deep musculature through the glutes and the hips, pelvic floor tightens, your breath is restricted. And then if you back off a little bit, following that soft, sweet spot around the circle, opening on the inside. Both directions. Don't fold in the middle. Find your way through, from the head into the ground. Letting everything fall through. And then, same thing, top of the spine. Go too far and then back off the movement until you find this quiet, comfortable zone where the movement is able to move through the center of your neck, along your spine, to the feet, into the ground. Both directions. Eventually looking down, gazing down as though between your feet. And again, hang your head so far down here that you obstruct the movement through your throat. Your breath gets a little uncomfortable. It's harder to talk. You recognize what it's like to not be able to move through. And then here, as we start to look up and down, find the more comfortable zone where you're not obstructing movement through. If you can already feel through and the inside of your body, you don't have to move so far that you restrict, of course. That's just to make it a little more obvious for the people that are having difficulty finding that inside. And then closing again. Falling through the center line of the body, in front of the spine, through the belly, resting in the center of your body, between the navel and the spine, in line with the perineum. Your breath fills, your mind is quiet. If you're having trouble feeling that space deep inside your body, of course, it's okay just to place your awareness on your navel. In general, for people who have difficulty feeling inside their body, I highly recommend doing the 100-day self-massage series. It's specifically good for helping find the first layers inside through touch and much more obvious means rather than just placing your mind there. It helps you begin to find your way in, and so your mind starts to sink inside your body. Your mind saturates in your body like water into dry soil over time. You use your hands and you use more obvious methods. A little bit easier to find than here. And so if you're just finding it very difficult, switch over to the massage series for a while and then come back. And you'll probably find that it's made quite a difference for you. Feels good. Let's do a little shoulder release. So again, you can go too far. So it closes off the connection through from the torso down through the elbow to the hand. Or you can experience the softening through. Front of the shoulder, top of the shoulder opens, back of the shoulder opens, the space beneath, the elbow falls outward. Over the next week after this class, I will be emphasizing the 6 corners of the shoulder, talking about it in more detail, and again, using the form to explore those spaces as we open, both directions. We've talked about it a bit before, but I feel like it's worth repeating and exploring again and again. both directions. Through the center, from the torso, through the middle of the shoulder, the middle of the elbow, into the center of the hand. Maybe you can feel the bones settling, or the soft tissue moving around the bones. Find a way inside, both directions. And then both at once. When I was first finding that I could put my awareness inside my body and move through the center line, I actually experienced quite a lot of achiness, strange discomfort, almost like there was pressurization happening on the inside of my body. I had to learn how to not push my mind very hard, because that creates chi stagnation in an area where you're not used to moving. So if you were having an experience like that, the cure is to soften your mind further, to not try to forcefully intend anything. With all of our practice, we want this intentless intent. To know, but don't think about it. 知而不想. Know that you're moving through, but don't think about it too much. Here today we're talking about it a lot to introduce the idea, but as you practice and you can find it, be very gentle and comfortable, because it's a very powerful practice. And you don't want to experience discomfort like I went through. We're learning how to let go. And that includes the mind. It's just in the beginning, it takes a little bit of poking at it until you can start to find it. And for me, because I can't be with you, I have to poke at it verbally. If you want to come meet me up here at the monastery near Seattle in the States, you're welcome. And I'll help you find how to move through without as much talk. Both directions. One leg empty, one leg full. Moving through the leg as much as you're moving through the shoulders and the arms. The waist, the breath. Again, closing. Sinking through the middle. Gentle, open. Very pleasant wintry weather up here today. Frozen outside. Some big winter storms coming through for the equinox, or excuse me, for the winter solstice. And it's just such a beautiful time to be part of the world and to pay attention. Quiet and warm inside if you're lucky enough to have a place like that. And then to appreciate that we have a place like that. Thank you for joining me here. I feel grateful for you too. So let's do the next one. Softening front to back like a wave, starting with the neck. Just as before, noticing how it's possible to close it off. Circling around, extending, releasing without closing the center, without constricting. Helping your blood flow with every movement. And then begin to roll the shoulders. This waving motion all the way up from the feet, from the ground through the body, propagating along the spine and out. Gentle and open and free. And then tapering off. And as usual, storing and settling. Easy. Making space inside. Nice to be relaxed. So before we do a bit of the black snake twisting around the tree, let's do some neck release. Looking up and over. Again, noticing the feeling of being open versus the feeling of restriction. Notice if you go too far, or maybe you arch too much or close too much, so that you end up restricting something instead of making it more open. Through the center. Let's also try looking down and up in the back. Lengthening through the middle. Opening that space in front of the spine, the middle of the throat. See if you're restricting your airway. And closing. I want to make more time for practices later. But if you feel like these are especially helpful for you, then feel free to pause the lesson and just keep doing them for a bit. There are certain practices that will help us uncover the center more, I feel. But if you're finding any of these especially useful, please don't skip. Your own personal healing journey is more important than my teaching program. Lengthening the head back, elbows pulling back. Remember that you are lengthening vertically, lengthening your spine, lengthening horizontally, opening the space outward, your elbows moving away from each other. When I'm talking about it this way, it tends to sound like I'm just talking about the back of the spine, the back of the shoulders. But of course, for today, see if you can feel the space in front of the spine. The space between the shoulders that connects through the chest, through the throat. What does that feel like? Softening outward, lengthening along the side of the body. And when your elbows settle, just release your lower arms. So your hands settle gently to the side of your body. You might notice, if you tend to have restriction in the shoulders, that as you lower your arms, you feel the blood returning to your hands. That's really useful for today. So each time we lift our hands up throughout various practices, notice if when your hands sink again, if you get that feeling of warm rushing or pressure because your blood was occluded a bit as you were lifting your arms. And this is a great way to find out how to move in such a way that doesn't obstruct that, or in the very least enhances the return afterward, depending on what's causing it for you. Please don't strain your heart or challenge your circulation in any way. We're just trying to help. Let's use the hands here to help turn the head from side to side. Again, opening through the middle. You can go too far if that helps you find the middle. Just don't do it too often. And softening down whenever you're ready. Lengthening outward. Notice if that blood pressure is returning differently through your body. Hold yourself in such a way to enhance it. My arms again are floating as this is open, but it's not because I'm holding my arms, it's because this is following the appropriate trajectory. And this is just how my body's shaped. But notice if you clamp your arms down by your side, no matter where your shoulders are, it will obstruct the flow of your hands. So find a way to keep this open without force. And then the frozen shoulder movement. I'll start by looking to my right. Right hand turns my head to the left, and then I release outward, gently. Observing the circulation to my hand, and then same on the other side. One more time, then let's do a closing. Just because I want to continually return our awareness to the midline. Notice your breath, the freedom of movement through the middle, circulation, perhaps your digestion if you've had a meal recently. Hopefully not too heavy. They don't tend to go well with your practice. And so again, let me use my little toy here as a way to talk about, to demonstrate this circulation through. I know you've all seen this. Turn it over here real quick. And you see it moving through. So if I can get my computer to focus on it here. As it falls through, imagine if this were kinked or folded in some way. If it was folded here, it would just back up. If I took it and bent it, everything would fall here and it would just collect. And then this would become deficient or, would turn purple and dark because there's not getting circulation to it. And this would be stuck up here. So both ends would have damage. And the cure isn't to try to massage both ends, but rather to restore flow between. So much of Qi is a relationship, flow through. And so we want to continually be aware of those lines. If we're focusing on the beginning and certain channels, like the sinew channels we've been focusing on, that can be very external. Sometimes it's just physical movement based. But there's also more subtle internal components we want to begin to be aware of. And I don't want to push this too much because it'll be something we focus on in greater detail in years and months to come. But for now, Just see if you can tune in to that feeling, at least to the breath and general circulation. Makes a huge difference. I have faith in you. Let's float up the midline. Shoulders sink, hands turn over before the heart. Turning up, shoulder blades slide down the back. Hands push up, lengthen your spine. Hands resting on top of the head. Pressing down gently. A natural postural elasticity responds. You don't have to do anything. Just create the challenge and let your body respond. But do notice whether or not you're open through. As the pressure comes down, you want the pressure to sink down through the center of your neck, not too much in the back or the front. One more time, and then once more, as we lengthen up, we'll soften off to the sides. Notice the circulation returning and moving differently as gravity restores it through your arms. Use it to become aware of the inside. Notice how your breath changes it, how your mind changes it. Once again, let's come up the center line. Lengthening along the spine, shoulder blades slide down the back as usual. Crown of the head following the hands up effortlessly. And then this time, let's pull the head down gently. You can go too far and see if you can feel it cut off circulation in the center. Hopefully not too much. And then up, same thing. Just enough pressure to challenge those postural muscles in the back. At this point in the month-long practice we've done, these should have gotten a lot stronger. Much more resilient. And then once again, let's do one last lengthening of the back. And release your hands. And once more, let's fall down the outside, slow enough to notice the return of circulation as it washes down through the middle. I'll just keep saying it. Let's do a little side-to-side releasing. As best you can. And then shaking out from the top down. Like you're washing circulation down through the center of your legs to your feet, down to the center of your arms to your hands, just in front of your spine, down through your hips. And once more, closing. Find a way to settle through the middle, and then rest. Grab a sip of my tea. So let's do a little bit of prep work for the black snake. Getting nice and comfortable in your body. And let's do some of these side motions. Shoulder slides down, hand behind your head, without pulling your arm back or pushing your head forward. It's okay if you can't make it along this line yet. but you do want to try to follow the correct line. Shoulder blade sinks down, crown of the head floats up, listening to this line that runs through the center of the body. We're staying open through the middle. Eventually, this is easy, not because you're flexible, but because you're soft, which makes you flexible. Turning your waist a little bit can help. Wonderful. Softening up the midline. Palm floats up, one palm sinks down. Releasing. Softening through the center line of your body, down through the soles of your feet. Floating up. Opening. Sinking down. Floating up. Softening down. Relaxing your shoulders a bit. Taking your time. You don't need to do anything that causes further tension. So let's try a little bit of black snake. But again, remember to follow this space inside, both on the sinking down. That might be the easiest to find. But also as we lean and look back and down, it's easy to close along the front or to close that, in the beginning, very small space of opening through the middle. So pay attention to that feeling. Keep the length of your neck and shoulders especially, since that's our main focus for this 100 days. Don't collapse. Every day a little bit better, a little more free. Feeling the inside of your body, not just stretching along the outside. One last time, floating down through the midline of your body, softening and softening, as though there's a gentle waterfall washing down through your organs, through the centers of your legs, through the bottoms of your feet, like plumbing, washing down into the ground, at least a meter below your feet. And then closing. Let's do some preparation for white snake. So your hands are falling down the outside, but through the middle of your body, you're also sinking to your feet, sinking to your feet. And then we do it in a more obvious way here. Sliding down the back, the chest sinks, a wave washes down to the back foot, a wave washes down through the body to the front foot. It's easy to break this line so the movement goes that way instead of through. And it's easy to do the same thing here so the movement goes that way instead of through. See if you can feel almost a pressure wave moving through your body, especially with movements like this that include momentum. That pressure wave feeling can be easier to find. So we'll do extra of these, aiming to help Open this quality in your body. Both sides. Eventually, this center line, or this internal movement, becomes the majority of your experience and practice. Stuff moving through the middle, changing, washing through these lines of movement in the body. That's why we call it an internal practice. But first, we have to be able to notice it. That's an important first step. Letting go. And then, again, same thing. There's a lifting and a sinking of the chest. The belly softens. The back is relaxing and opening, just like we've been practicing, especially this last week. And yet, there's also movement through the midline, in the place that I can't point to. In front of the spine, behind the navel. See if you can feel this movement traveling through the body. Don't focus too hard on it with your mind, or you'll get in the way and cause stagnation. That's not helpful. Just listen. Don't control. Make space. Movement happens on its own once we get the heck out of the way. Lengthening outward. The distance between your hands grows without you pushing. Let go so they fall apart. Don't push them apart. That just tightens some other place. And then gently stepping out. And as you lengthen, maybe you feel it lengthening across the front or across the back or maybe around your hips. And instead, see if you can feel the space in the middle lengthening. It may feel strange, but look for it. Even if you don't feel it, just paying attention and knowing that it's possibly there starts this process of change. It'll take some years for it to open and move more freely, but there's no rush. Softening through as your shoulder blades sink. Make space for the breath. Movement falls through to the feet. Again, closing. Falling through the middle. And don't worry, at some point I intend to make an entire series just about talking about how to begin to manifest movement through the insides. But that's further down the road. First, we do whole sections the way we're doing a 100-day series on the neck and shoulders. We'll do it for the hips and the legs, for the waist, the chest. All of these things need to be opened and become free. If you can't open on the outside, you're certainly not going to be able to open on the inside. A bit at a time, all 18 pivots open, and then once there's space to move through. And then things get really interesting. But it'll take a while. But I still want you to know where we're going with practice, because the manifestations of them are just wonderful. You may already be feeling it somewhat if you're noticing that sense of lightness in the head as you soften your neck. It's as though your head is falling upward without you doing anything. If you're noticing that at all, that's a manifestation of this space opening on the inside. And imagine your whole body filled with that kind of lightness. Let's do a little bit of white snake, sticking out its tongue, falling through the middle, center of the arms, centers of the legs as you shift your weight. Softening the shoulders. The shoulders nest in this entire connecting point as it floats around, sliding over the rib side, both directions. Feeling the open space. Don't pull so hard that you stop the movement. I know I'm repetitious. I hope it's annoying but helpful. Through. Don't break the line. Let's try both sides. Moving through the center. In the beginning, we have this image of our bodies being collections of sticks and rubber bands, little pulleys and tight lines of force. And over time, as we feel the inside, we start to unlock the possibility for a kind of liquid movement, like a hydraulic system, something new. Something that as you create space and feel empty, there's capacity to move through that emptiness freely. The more we let go, the easier it becomes, the more obvious it becomes. But we need to have that mental map, that model possibility in our head, because we move the way we imagine we're going to move. We lead with our mind. And so we change the image of how we engage a bit at a time. And so we'll talk about it, of course, a lot more in the future. But for now, we just try a single day of practice, just a 90-minute session, feeling the inside, trying not to kink the hose, allowing the fire hose of movement through the middle of your body to be free, uninhibited. You can change direction. You can feel what it's like to move. See if one side is more free than the other. Let's do just a little bit of waist turning as well. opening, closing toward this side, opening away from it. I'll just put my finger on my navel so you can see it turning. And then same thing. I'm just putting my hand here so you can see the turning of the waist. Notice that my hip is not turning. This stays here, but my navel turns away, spreading and lengthening here. Don't twist your knees. Don't turn your hips for this one. Just turn your waist. The easiest place to feel this might be through your waist at the moment, especially during this large rotation. So as you go around, you might notice that you find it easier to stabilize by holding your breath and tightening your belly. That's one way that we protect ourselves when our center line is broken. See if you can move in a way that maintains the integrity of the torso without adding tension or rigidity through holding the breath or gripping your abdominals. So here we go. Just soften. Soften around the waist, staying open, staying within the range of motion that allows you to be soft without obstructing that free flow through the middle. You might also find it here in your shoulder. You circle around, or here as you come up. If your shoulder grips, then you just run into your own shoulder. But if you soften your shoulder, your hand just moves through the empty space effortlessly. All the way around. You just soften your shoulder, your hand just falls through the empty space. And it's the same thing that's happening on the inside of your body. You fall through the empty space. You let go. I let go here and it just falls around. I'm not lifting it. I'm not doing anything. I just let go this direction. And now I'm just going to soften in a circle around my waist. And look what happens. All this is soft. Don't get in your own way. Find out how to create these empty spaces and let go. Waiting for that sense of settling. Feels good. As you open through the middle. You expand all the way to your fingertips and your toes, and then you settle all the way back to the center, and everything pulls through. Again, you open. Your whole body opens and expands. That idea of the fire hose or the garden hose, flowing freely all the way to the ends. Don't tighten your feet or tighten your hands or hold your breath. Don't clamp your shoulders. If you think about it, which place can you kink or fold on a garden hose and have the hose still work? No place, of course. Any place that you block it blocks everywhere. And the body is often like this. Find the way through, all the way through. Don't hang on anywhere, or you tend to block everywhere. This one's also especially good, sinking through the middle, to the belly, to the feet. Remember that I'm assuming everybody has watched all of my basic teaching videos, just the opening series talking about how we practice, that we practice through letting go, the nature of the mind, and how we are shaping our mind as we practice. So if you skipped those, please don't anymore. Go back, they won't take very long. But you need the proper context to understand how to practice, to avoid causing problems for yourself. Closing. Everything sinks down, settling to that space at the level of the navel, inside. Let's do just a few of turtle drinking chi. First, starting with the neck. All the way around, letting go without closing your throat, without blocking that central line. You can let the whole torso wave down in preparation. Letting everything be easy. No strain. And then when you're ready, settling back, hips travel back, spine lengthens, crown of the head lengthens as though it was pointing up. And then we soften the back, releasing shoulders, the lower back, the tailbone sinks. And then, leading with the nose, traveling up. Opening. Don't close your back. Don't tighten along your front. Just let go. And again, you will notice that even when I'm fully rounded, my voice is not changing. I'm not compressing my belly. I'm not compressing my chest or my throat. You keep everything open. Don't let things inside compress. Again. Lengthening, free, softening, effortless. Release your breath out, and then take your time, lengthening upward. One more time. So a good way to explore this feeling of inside pressure and holding is to eat a too large meal and then to practice Qigong and do that movement. And you'll notice that feeling of compression inside, that you're stopped up. It doesn't feel good. You can't breathe fully because you're blocked in the middle and later blocked below probably. And so when those moments happen, hopefully you're not doing them too often or on purpose, but if they do happen, use it as a teaching moment for yourself to start to pay attention to what it's like inside. When there's compression in your chest and your heart doesn't beat as well, or there's compression in your chest and in your lungs, maybe there's fluid in your lungs, or you have really poor posture and so you just can't breathe as well. Your diaphragm doesn't move, digestion doesn't move. When things are obstructed through here someplace or out through here, things don't flow. You want to start to notice that feeling so you can learn how to live in the opposite way. And it makes all the difference. And again, this is just a primer, just an introduction, so that later down the road you can start to notice it more easily and more often. But start to pay attention. And it's a whole world in here that we'll start to learn to engage with. It's amazing. So let's try softening up the middle. Circling your wrists, relaxing down. That wave of softness traveling down and through you. Down through the centers of the legs, the center of your feet. You sink only as far as keeps you from compressing your body or your legs. And you can soften your wrists. And again, lengthening up. Up the center line, just for today, practicing this lengthening through the middle. Crown of the head follows the hands, tailbone sinks down, and you release your wrists as many times as you'd like. And then there's this feeling of waving down through the body, softening your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders, your neck, your chest, your solar plexus and your back. Your hips release, your glutes are soft, your thighs, your knees, your lower legs, and your feet, connecting to the earth. And it's as though you reach in and you gather up some of that warmth and solidity of the earth. It flows up, your awareness lingers just for a moment in your lower back, and then forward. You're just guiding your mind through. And then we let go. Free movement, soft. Shoulders sink. You can look up if you want to open along the front a little bit more. Releasing. A wave of softness traveling through, openness. Emphasize releasing through the middle, as though you're softening around your internal organs and in front of your spine. Any pressurization you have going on in there, it all lets go. Emphasize this releasing down and through. Don't get in your own way. Only go so far as you feel your body open and easy. At some point, if you start sinking too far, your body will grip and you'll obstruct the movement. So you have to listen to where you are in that moment. Closing. Gentle circles, softening around, swaying, swinging side to side. The weight pours through the center of one leg to your foot into the ground. The weight pours through the other. Your hips soft and open. Your navel turning. Shoulders released. As you twist your waist, as you rotate through the middle, let your awareness again settle inside your body, just in front of your spine, as though that's the pivot point that you're turning around. So rather than necessarily thinking about twisting your belly or pushing your lower back, just pay attention to the pivot point being in the center of the body. See if you can feel that as an idea. See how it changes the movement. And then releasing and settling through the middle, from the crown of the head, which is released upward as you empty the neck, through the hands as you soften the chest and the shoulders open, falling through to the hands. Your tailbone releases. Your hips are open because you soften your belly, because your lower back is released. And as your hips are open and your knees are released, the weight falls through the middle to your feet and into the ground because you're not hanging onto your feet. This feeling of open and expansive through the middle, free. And then, of course, as usual, some extra attention flowing into the bones, especially that of your neck and shoulders, paying attention to all the layers of tissue as best you can. And then some gentle awareness, always very gentle, don't push your mind. Gentle awareness of the center in your body, the empty spaces, through the limbs, through the torso, and of course, especially in the dantian. warming around your eyes, softening and opening. You want to avoid putting too much attention actually into the center of your head. So along with this discussion of moving your awareness into the middle, try not to pay too much attention into the center of the head. That can cause your chi to rush upward. Also be careful about putting too much attention in the heart, as that can agitate your heart and cause your emotions to get too strong. So those are two caveats if you're going to continue this practice. Paying attention to the middle, as I hope you will. Just be gentle. So in this case, you're just feeling the eyes soften, and a little bit the space behind the eyes. Relaxing around your face, any space that might need a little extra attention. It's winter here, so I'm going to especially warm around my ears and my neck. Taking the time to allow that heat to soak into the tissues as though it radiates out from the inside, especially if you've been out in the cold and the wind. Don't skip this part. And again, just to make certain that people know, when I talk about rubbing the skin forcefully and generating heat, that of course assumes that your skin is healthy, that your circulation is normal and healthy, that you have general ability to feel your body here. If you have wounds on your skin or numbness and you're not able to feel what's happening in case you scratch yourself or something, please be extra gentle. I know that's not most of you, but just in case it's one of you, I want to make sure that you're extra safe, please. You can get help from somebody else who can look to see what's happening if you need the help. You can spend more time in that upper shoulder area if you're not wearing a microphone there. Maybe you are. Allow your body weight to fall, and the movement is falling through, not just on top of your arm, but through the middle of your arms. Down through your body, through your legs. Through the middle, if you can feel that. Tong to, through. Useful terminology, I'll just repeat that as well occasionally. You'll pick it up after some practice. A little bit of shaking. See if you can feel the insides movement a little bit. Just letting go. And then the whole body, gentle and free. Thank you so much, my friends. So your homework for the rest of today, or maybe until the next time we practice, pay a little extra attention to the insides, that feeling of pressurization or movement. Maybe you experience it as warmness or coolness or electrical buzzing. However you experience it, just have a little bit of your awareness there all the time, just for the next little while, and whenever you can notice it. Notice when you open a door, what areas are being blocked, and can you find a way to move that allows things to open and express instead by connecting through. Just experiment. There's no test at the end of it, but the more you pay attention, the more obvious it will become, and the easier it will be later as you practice to make those connections a reality. You got this. I will see you tomorrow.